And where do you live?
I live at number 31 Adekunle Fajuyiwe, GRA, Ikeja.
And your occupation?
I am not resting. I'm a lawyer and I'm in business.
You sent to this commission a petition dated the 10th of August 1999, did you?
Yes, my lord.
If you see a copy of that petition, can you recognize it?
Yes, my lord.
Please have a look at this petition. Is that the petition?
Yes, my lord, it is my petition.
You know, may I have the permission to tender it? Exhibit 1, multiply. Please mark it, the content of Exhibit 1, please.
The contents of Exhibit 1 are as follows. Set up for a phantom coup plot, assault and battery on me, Lieutenant General Oladipo Diya, illegal detention and imprisonment, physical and psychological torture, abuse of my fundamental human rights, theft of my property and property of my wives and family members, my family members, friends and guests, harassment of my family and friends. All the above mentioned were committed by General Sani Abacha, aided by Major Generals Ishaya Bamayi, Bashir Magashi, Patrick Aziza, Air Vice Marshal Idi Musa, Brigadier Sabu Alaji, Major El Mustafa, Major Argungu, Major Mumuni, and Sergeant Rogers, all of Nigerian Armed Forces. Preamble. By the middle of the year 1997, it was obvious that the relationship between me as the Chief of General Staff and General Abacha, then the head of state, had become strained as a result of some policy differences. Chief amongst these were 1, the continued stay of the military in governance, making the 1998 handover date uncertain. 2, General Abacha's self-succession plan. The seeming refusal or delay in promulgation of the 1995 Constitution, which so many had worked so hard on. My views were well known to the top echelon of the armed forces because I had aired them at meetings presided over by General Sani Abacha and also in private to him. However, I did not realize that General Abacha took all these personally as acts of disloyalty until the unsuccessful bomb attack of the 30th December 1997, and 1 week later, my arrest.
13 or 30th?
And
I'm sorry, what date?
13th, yes. The bomb blast of 13 December 1997. And 1 week later, my arrest for a coup plot, in quotes. The arrest. On the 20th of December 1997, my official residence in Abuja was invaded by heavily armed troops with 2 armored tanks, all commanded by Major El Mustafa. I was immediately handcuffed and leg chained and put in solitary confinement after arrest. This was just 7 days, as I said, after I had narrowly escaped assassination via a bomb attack, which instead killed the two would-be assassins. While the details of the alleged coup plot are contestable, what are incontrovertible are the following glaring breaches of my fundamental rights and blatant abuses of the rules of natural justice. Summary of abuses. 1. I was arrested on the 20th of December 1997 and immediately put into hand and leg chains like a common felon for a coup plot that they know in their hearts was never was. I was also put into solitary confinement from that day, even before investigations into the allegations had started. That all the officers, soldiers, and even civilians serving in my official residence, including cooks, stewards, telephone operators, guards in the house, were all arrested, detained, and tortured by a torture group comprising of the then Captain Baturi, ADC to General Bamayi, Major Mustafa himself, who was CSO to General Bacha, Major Arugungu of military police, Major Bashir Mumuni of military police, Sergeant Rogers of the strike force, Lieutenant Ibrahim of the Brigade of Guards, and Alhaji Mohammed, son of the late General Sani Mohammed Abacha. Such victims include Professor Dekunle, my special advisor, Colonel Shoda, my military assistant, Major Fadipe, my chief security officer, and so many others. The torture weapons include horsewhips, electric volts, hot water, tear gas, and so on and so forth. As a result of the torture, one of my security guards, one Lance Corporal Mohammed, may his soul rest in peace, attached to my office, was murdered by this torture group. Also related to this was the torture Lieutenant Colonel Akiode related to me in Jos. He, Lieutenant Colonel Akiode, could not recover from this torture. He later died at the Makurdi prisons. May his soul rest in peace. I was not fed, nor was I given even a glass of water for 3 days, which was very traumatic, stressful, as well as extremely bad for my health. That Major General Bamayi, as well as other captioned officers, were also purportedly arrested alongside me by Major Mustafa in an attempt to hoodwink me into believing that there was going to be a genuine investigation. Subsequent events, however, exposed the whole incident as a setup, planned specifically for a few others and me. It was only on the 8th of January 1998 in Jos prisons that Lieutenant Colonel Frank Omeka, also a member of the torture group, told me boldly and plainly that it is only you, that is me and your Yoruba officers, that were arrested. The Chief of Army Staff, General Shah Bamayi, and the others are all back to work. This was long before the supposed investigations and trial. Thus, while one group of officers, including myself, were apparently arrested under one set of laws, Major General Bamai and these other captioned officers who originated, masterminded, and indeed alone had capacity to execute their demands were neither arrested nor under investigation because apparently a different set of laws applied to them. The other Yoruba officers, my family members, friends and guests, many of whom are not even military officers, and others who in one way or the other had offended the powers that be, were incarcerated along with me. 4, that a completely false video clip made by editing, erasing, and joining different parts of tapes out of sequence to give a totally false picture was put together and shown to different segments of the public. It portrays me already as a guilty man shortly after the arrest when investigations had supposedly not yet started or being completed. That General Abubakar, then Chief of Defense Staff, announced to the public that others and I have been arrested for coup plotting, thus pronouncing me and all the others guilty even before investigations or trials have started. From Abuja, where I was denied access to radio, television, news or communications of any sort, I was eventually moved out on the 2nd of January 1998 to Jos Prison, and I was put in the condemned prisoner's cell. Here, in addition to hand and leg chains, I was also chained to the ground under the custody of Lieutenant Colonel Abubakar, Major Bashiru Momuni, and Sergeant Rogers. At this point, neither the trial nor investigations are started, as I had not yet been given an opportunity even to make any statement. That after 3 days of neither food or water, I was now fed once a day for some time. From then on, from the 15th of January, the ration, to the grace of God, increased to twice a day. That I was denied the services of a lawyer of any sort or counsel until February 14, 1998. That was the inaugural day of the trial, when I was asked to choose a lawyer from the ranks of the military. I chose Major General Mukhtar, and this choice was rejected. Rather, Lieutenant Colonel Amadu was forced on me. And I must say at this juncture that at this point in time, Lieutenant Colonel Amadu is still suffering from promotion loss. He had never been promoted. All his mates are now colonels and brigadiers. Even with the authorities forcing a counsel on me, I was not allowed any privacy to brief the so-called counsel. All the discussions were held in the presence of armed military personnel and security operatives. The lawyer was not allowed to take notes or bring in any scrap of paper of writing material. In fact, he was not even given proper access to be briefed. Rather, we were both given an hour at the trial venue each day for briefing. This we would do standing in the presence of security forces. In addition to all this, the lawyer will be thoroughly searched each time before seeing me, thus making the whole exercise a mockery and a travesty of justice. That on the day of the opening ceremony, that was Saturday, 14th of February 1998, as a result of my press statement that the whole farce was a setup. I was thoroughly beaten that night by a team of soldiers led by Sergeant Rogers. Corporal Bitrus is a witness. He was in charge of my cell. He was the one that unlocked the door to let this team in, thereby making himself an accomplice to the assault and battery. My Lord, sir, I want to make a remark here that Corporal Bitrus has since then seen me and he has apologized and I've forgiven him. The assault, battery, and accompanying torture continued every night for several days until I now formally reported to Major Mumuni, who intervened to stop the beating and torture. In the meantime, my physical condition had deteriorated badly, with irreparable damage to my health generally and to my eyes in particular. I was made to sleep on bare floor in chains for the first fortnight. Thereafter, despite the extreme cold climate of Jos, I was only given 2 blankets to serve both as mattress and a cover against the cold from January 1998 to 15th of July 1998. After the inauguration of the tribunal, Major General Malu, heading the tribunal, started wearing a Abacha personal loyalty badge on his military uniform. The military pledge is one of loyalty to our fatherland and not to individuals. By wearing this badge with his military uniform and indeed flaunting it throughout the trial, Major General Malu gave us clear signals that the matter had been prejudged against us even before the trial. Thus, the case became a matter of personal loyalty or otherwise to General Abacha and not to the armed forces or indeed the country. That General Abacha was clearly an agent provocateur in the matter, as the evidence showed clearly that he had masterminded the whole fiasco. I was indeed fully briefed every inch of the way from the first moment to the last. In spite of this, he was never brought before the tribunal either to give evidence or to be cross-examined. That General Abacha, acting in concert with the Chief of Army Staff, Major General Ishaya Bamai, Major General Patrick Aziza, Major General Magashi, AVM Musa, all colluded to implicate innocent serving officers in the Nigerian Army in a bogus coup plot in order to have them killed or summarily executed in an extrajudicial manner. For instance, Major General Ishaya Bamai continuously invaded my privacy, my house, armed with a tape recorder, thereby breaching my right to privacy even in my own house, all in an attempt to incriminate me. Immediately after my arrest, Lieutenant Colonel Yakasai, Major Argungu, Lieutenant Dagaji, leading other soldiers, invaded my house, looted my house, and stole all my personal belongings and those of my family, including that of Mrs. Josephine Diya, Mrs. Folashade Diya, Mr. Wale Diya, and all the belongings of all my guests who were in that house on that day. And these also include Chief Abiodun Okunoga, one Mr. Oshikoya, thereby showing a blatant disregard for the laws of the land and treating all the property as forfeited even before investigations or trial. Controversial judgment of the tribunal dealt with assets of accused persons. It was the first time we are hearing that. Therefore, General Bubakar cannot validate his order as set out in Statutory Instrument Number 4 of 1999, forfeiting my access to the federal government. In view of the fact that my assets did not at any point in time form part of the case, they were not raised in evidence, neither were they conversed at any point during the trial. The order for forfeiture is wrong in law and in fact, and should be set aside. After my statement to the press that it was a setup, the press and members of the public were barred from the trial. Thus, the entire kangaroo trial took place amidst very tight security, away from the public and questioning eyes, making it a secret trial. That the verdict of the tribunal should be set aside for contravening the rules of natural justice, and because the evidence given did not support the findings. 9 of us were found guilty of treason. All the 9 of us, with the exception of Colonel Jandu, whom I've never met in my life, were all from the same ethnic group. And most importantly, none of us, out of the 9 persons sentenced to death, had any troops under our command with which to effect the demands of a coup. That one of the cardinal principles of natural justice, that no one should be a judge in his own case, was further violated when the same actors involved in the bogus coup saga and the trial now also acted as the reviewing officer, as the confirming authority for the sentence of the tribunal. Specifically, General Abubakar, who announced our arrest, who convened the so-called tribunal and presided over the PRC meeting, also presided over the PRC meeting to review and confirm the sentence. 2. General Bamayi, the principal actor in the HOAS, was also a member of the PRC and participated in reviewing and confirming. Major General Bashir Magashi, who aided Bamayi in the setup, also took part as member of the PRC in reviewing and confirming the sentence. Major General Patrick Aziza, the man Friday of the whole plot, also took part as PRC member at the meeting. AVM Idi Musa, from whom the 4-point demand originated, also took part and as a member of the PRC in confirming the sentence. Major General Victor Malu, who presided over the kangaroo court, sporting an Abacha loyalty badge throughout to leave us in no doubt of his state of mind, also took part as member of the PRC in confirming the sentences. Major General Chris Garuba, who presided over the investigation panel and therefore was aware from the paucity of evidence that the whole exercise was a setup targeted at me and my ethnic grouping within the army, and yet ruled that we had a case to answer without including the Chief of Army Staff and the general officers commanding, as well as the principal actors in the farce for trial, was also himself part of the reviewing and confirming officer as a member of the PRC. Thus, the very people who engineered the bogus coup plot, announced it, investigated it, set up a panel to try it, and indeed tried it, were also all members, and they all sat in the PRC to review and confirm the so-called verdict. Prayers. In view of the foregoing, my Lord, my prayers to the panel are as follows: to set aside the findings and verdict of this kangaroo court as illegal, totally null and void for reasons of breach of the rules of natural justice and other related acts of injustice as exposed in my memorandum and elsewhere. To order a full investigation into the alleged bogus coup plot and the circumstances surrounding the setup. To order investigations into the abuse of office which enabled General Bacha and General Bamaye and company to set up such an elaborate wars in order to place the army in its top echelons of a particular ethnic group using state and military machinery. The panel should make a penal order both to deal with the perpetrators and to act as a deterrent in future. To order full investigations into the assault and battery, as well as the torture I suffered in the hands of Major Mustafa, Major Mumuni, Major Argungu, and Sergeant Rogers. To order the trial of Mohammed Abacha, Captain Baturi, as well as the above named officers and soldiers for the attempted murder of staff employed at my official residence that they arrested, detained, and tortured, and the murder of Lance Corporal Mohammed, one of my security guards, and Lieutenant Colonel Akiode, both of whom died as a result of torture undergone. To order the trials of Major Arugungu, Lieutenant Dagaji, and Lieutenant Colonel Yakasai for the looting of my property, the property of my family, staff, and guests, and to compel them to return the looted properties. To order Lieutenant Colonel Dr. Yakasai, Lieutenant Colonel Frank Omenka, Brigadier Sabu, and Sergeant Rogers, under whatever name or alias he uses, and all others involved, to give evidence about the matter in the light of their various confessions from prison as published and their sinister rules under General Bacha. That the families of these two victims of torture be adequately compensated for the loss of their involvement. Finally, to remove from office and retire immediately if there is still any officer who served as a member of the investigation panel and or the tribunal in both 1995 and 1997 bogus coup plot. The involvement of any officer in both investigation and or trials suggests that such officers has been compromised. Officers of integrity are usually not called back a second time for such work. Officers of questionable integrity should no longer serve in any meaningful capacity in the military, as they have nothing to offer. Thank you, my Lord. This petition was dated 10th day of August 1999 and signed by me. Copying them, I'm leaving that to the discretion of the commission. The only thing I will add, sir, under this is to restore the rank of all the junior officers and restate them. All the junior officers who are involved in this bogus, they are all suffering. They are all suffering, my Lord. That is all the last request I will make.
The two paragraphs on page 7, you still want to remain part of your petition?
It's still part of my petition.
Thank you very much. Well, General Diya, you also have an addendum to your memorandum. Is that correct?
It's a short remark, sir, to support my...
Yeah, I call it an addendum. something you add to something existed. Basically, to tender the addendum at the places. Counsel to the Commission, Exhibit 1. And I want you to expatiate on some aspects of that document. You mentioned specifically your bitter experience in this case, and somewhere in particular at page 5 of your memorandum, you were thinking. All of you.
I'm sorry to interrupt the Leonard Senior, but I appeal that you...
Because I have looked at the terms of reference. At the end of the day, your Lordship has the power to recommend anybody for trial. And if that is so, the proceedings should be fair. There's no way we can react to the addendum whose content...
The addendum is not yet in evidence. The addendum is not yet... Hold it. We say we will withdraw Exhibit 2 until...
The group you had in mind, the ethnic group you had in mind, is the Yoruba ethnic group. In other words, everybody found guilty was a Yoruba officer except one.
Yes, my lord.
How do you feel about that?
Naturally, as a human being, I felt, and I still feel very bad that officers who are not in command of anything, my lord, Major Mustafa testified yesterday that even the guards in my house, he was supplying them, who are not in any position to meet the demand of a coup. But who are the one arrested, who are the one tried, who are the one sentenced to death, my lord.
Now, I think you have to be more specific on that issue. Those who can successfully carry out a coup, you have to let us know in what position they must be. Those who are unable to carry out a coup, you must educate us what position they could be. And then these 8 Yoruba officers, what position they are, to let us know whether indeed this is something which is plotted.
My
I hope you
lord,
understand what I mean.
my lord, starting from myself, I'm a Chief of General Staff. I don't have any commander whatsoever under me, under direct command. My function officially is completely administrative. General Adisa, at that time, was a minister.
Was he one of the people found guilty?
General Adisa was
Yes.
one of the people found guilty and sentenced to death. In fact, 3 soldiers guarded him in his house, and these 3 soldiers were also supplied by Major Mustafa. General Lariwaju was found guilty. He was sentenced to death. In fact, I don't even know whether he had soldiers at all guarding his house, not talk of having any troops under command. Major Fadipe is my chief security officer. Major Mustafa confirmed yesterday that even that security officer of mine, he was the one who sent him to me. Name it, Adebanjo was a guest who was staying with me. In fact, he missed his flight that night. And through the same group, he was arrested, he was sentenced to death. He had nothing under him, he has nothing to offer in terms of coup. Sir, I cannot go on naming, let them now name one person who is in charge of troops amongst those that were sentenced to death. Colonel Jando had come before this tribunal. I had never met him in my life. The person who implicated him has apologized before this panel. Where is the coup, my lord?
In paragraph 20 on the same page 5, the last paragraph, Major General Chris Garba, who presided over the investigation panel, and therefore was aware from the paucity of evidence that the whole exercise was a setup targeted at me. I'm an ethnic grouping within the army, and yet ruled that we had a case to answer without including Chief of Army Staff and the general officers commanding, as well as other principal actors in the farce, who was also part of the review and confirmation fiasco. I will break that particular portion of your memorandum into parts. First of all, the ethnic grouping referred to is the same ethnic grouping of the Yoruba ethnic group.
Yes, my lord.
And as far as the general officers commanding are concerned, in what capacity are they to be able to organize a coup?
I cannot see anybody in the armed forces organizing a coup without having the general officers commanding with him, because the general officers commanding are the people commanding troops. The chief of army staff is the one in charge of the whole army, the whole troops, the Nigerian army. All of us that were arrested are the opposite of this thing. And at this particular point, I want to cite the quotation of General Babangida in one of the magazines, and he has never denied it, so I believe he said it. He said that if he heard that Diya was planning the coup, he would go to sleep. And if he now heard that Adisa is planning the coup, he will go into slumber. He knew what he was saying, because he knew that none of us were in a coup.
Can we have that tender if you think it's relevant?
Yes, Milord, can you got a copy of that particular publication?
I will look for it, sir. It's a Retail magazine. It was there in quotes. If yes. I hear that...
You have it in your possession?
Yes, I will.
But not here now?
Not here now.
Milord, I will produce it subsequently. But what? Let us see exactly the quotation. It's very important. Babangida said, if he heard that Diya is planning a coup, he will go against the nation, whatever, he will go to sleep. And if you now heard that Adisa is planning a coup, he will go into slumber. You see, the quotation is just to show you... Just hold on. I would like you to explain to us, we are not generals, what meaning does that confound members of the people who are not in the army?
What that quotation is implying is to expose our incompetence, our inability to even contemplate a coup, not talk of executing it. You know, if you look at the structure of the army today, I will say, without any fear of contradiction, how many Southerners are in position to command troops? That is the truth. We are still talking, we are still calling for restructuring. We are talking for solving national conference. These are part of the problems.
Silence. Silence, silence. Silence. Silence, please. Please, silence. Please, silence. Silence. Order, please. Order.
Silence, please. Silence. General.